Welcome, my darlings, to my humble chateau. Please make yourself very comfortable. Relax your mind and release your imagination to me. I will bring you a story to entrance and entertain. Perhaps a frightening one. Perhaps a steampunk. Perhaps a bit of mythology. Anyway, sit back, enjoy, and subscribe to me. Courting Death by Josephine Black. My name is Yasmin. I am the daughter of Ekram Abdul Baset. My father is a kind, wise man who raised me alone without the help of my mother. My mother passed away when I was 4 from a wasting disease my father would not talk about. I thought I would live with my father forever, help him tend our house, our garden, and our animals. It was not to be. Malik Azizur Rahman, the sheik from a neighboring city, wanted me for his 3rd wife. I had heard tales of the sheik from the women in our small village. He was a powerful man with a powerful temper, and it was best to stay in his good graces. He liked his wives meek and obedient, willing to do everything he told them to do. Wives that did not do as told were beaten severely. Father hadn't raised me to be meek. Obedient, yes, but not meek. "Yasmin!" "Coming, Father," I called, heading for our little house. There in the living room with Father sat a sullen-faced, heavy-set man. He wore the traditional robes and had several rings on his fingers. In an instant I realized this was Azizur Rahman, and I felt my stomach plummet. Black eyes raked their way over me in my simple garb, and he grunted, "Tell your father goodbye. You will come with me now." Even though I was terrified, I put on a good face for Father. Then I was whisked away to the palace and shown to the harem where I would wash and prepare myself for the ceremony. The servants were silent, not saying a word as they showed me to the bath and laid out clothing for me. I was allowed to bathe in peace, but my thoughts were in turmoil. I wasn't ready to be a wife to anyone, and did not want to be the 3rd wife of the sheik. Women didn't have the voice they do now, though, so all I could do was accept my fate. Throughout the ceremony, I felt the sheik's black eyes boring into me. He was such a large man, not attractive at all. The thought of having to lie with him was sickening. I knew better than to try feigning illness with him, though. This man would know if I lied to him, I was sure. I will spare you the details of my wedding night. Suffice it to say, he found fault somewhere and beat me until I could do no more than lie there sobbing. Over the coming days, I prayed to Allah. I begged for mercy from this cruel man. I prayed every chance I was given, something that seemed to please him in some way. But his treatment of me continued to degrade until I wondered if Allah even cared what happened to me. There was an uproar one day at the palace from one of the servants. I'm not sure what caused her to begin screaming like she did, but I watched as the guards dragged her away, still screaming and fighting for her life. As she was going out the door, I saw her lift her head to stare defiantly at the sheik. "You think you have the favor of Allah," she called out, her voice strident. "But that is a lie. Only the devil would care for you. You are demon-possessed." The sheik threw back his head and laughed loudly at that. I crept back to the harem, her words ringing in my head. And then one night, he broke me. He beat me so badly I couldn't move. I could barely see. His servants had to carry me back to the harem, where I was tossed unceremoniously to the hard floor. All of the pain, all of the hurt and rage I felt came boiling up until it overflowed. It was not Allah I called on. Allah had not listened to me, had not cared that the sheik was going to kill me. No, I called on the devil himself. I called on him using every name I'd ever heard, using my own blood to summon him with. Broken and bloody on the floor, my eyes swelling shut and my mouth barely able to form words, I called him. I called him to come to me, to take me away from this place. At that moment, I thought hell would be paradise compared to what I was enduring. "Look at me, child." The voice was gentle, unexpectedly so. I raised my face from the floor, sure I was going to see a monster standing in my room. "Oh," I said, not seeing a monster at all. He was the tallest man I had ever seen. He had hair like rubies that fell in waves over his shoulders. His skin was like bone, and his eyes were pure gold. And when he saw the shape I was in, those eyes lit up like flames. "What would you have of me?" he asked. "I will die if I stay here with that bastard," I replied. "Take me to hell, I don't care." "Hell is not my home, Yasmin," he told me. "I am not your devil." Then he spoke his name, and the night fell silent as it left his lips. I had summoned death himself, cold, unfeeling, destructive death. I knew the name he gave me. Father had taught me some regarding the gods before Allah, and his name was one that was never spoken in full. "Do you still wish to leave your home, your life as you know it?" he asked, kneeling before me. "Yes," I responded immediately, my eyes welling with tears that stung as they overflowed. "I would rather die than... I cannot bear another beating. Please." He put his hand on my face. "He will never touch you, or any other woman, again," he murmured. "My word to you, Yasmin." "Thank you," I breathed, and lost consciousness. I woke in my bed, the sun streaming through the windows. "He didn't take me," I echoed, and felt the familiar burn of tears. "Why would you leave me here in this hell?" I asked softly. As I got out of bed, I realized I had no injuries, no bruises. Nothing was broken, nothing hurt. But tonight, the sheik would summon me and beat me again, I knew. When the servants came to fetch me that night and saw that I was whole, they gasped and ran screaming about my being a sorceress, a witch, consort to the devil. Shortly after, the bulk of the sheik filled my doorway, and his black eyes glared down at me in hatred. Your father told me you were a good girl. You were devoted to Allah, he thundered, moving closer. You are a whore of the devil, bitch! I braced myself for the first strike. You will not touch her. Death had arrived. I looked up as he advanced on the sheik, who now quailed in terror. You know who I am, the god remarked conversationally. You cannot be here, the sheik cried. Allah banished you. Allah has no power over me, the god growled, and in the blink of an eye he had transformed himself into a rotting corpse. Reaching out, he grabbed the sheik by the face, and the rot began to spread to him, taking his sight first, and then his ability to breathe or speak. When the sheik was a decayed mess on the floor, the god turned his baleful gaze to the servants who stood frozen beyond the door. This palace is condemned, he boomed out, and threw his arms wide. The entire palace around us, including the servants, began to rot and disintegrate. I was the only survivor, save for the other 2 wives. The god transformed back and helped me to my feet. Go home, Yasmin, to your father, he bade me with a smile. But I thought... You owe me nothing, child, he interrupted. I ask of you nothing, rather. He was a cruel man who did not deserve you or the other women whose lives he ruined. What shall I tell my father? I asked. He smiled, his gold eyes glittering. Tell him, Bellarine set you free. So quoth this raven. My darlings, this is the first of a series of stories by Josephine Black that I hope you enjoy as they progress. Give her a like on Reddit, and give this video a like. If you haven't subscribed, please do so and ring the little bell so you know when to come up and see me. And if you leave a comment, I will do my best to comment back. Bye-bye, my darlings.